All right, my friend. So this is like part two of our quiz review. We just want to kind of go over some chapter one terminology, go over a couple other things, and then we will move forward with the quiz. Okay. So yesterday we kind of went over certain map projections and things like that. We went over yesterday what a title was, symbols, labels, colors, lines of latitude, lines of longitude, a scale, legend, and compass rose. Again, we're just going to quickly go over this really fast. Lines of latitude and again are flat. They are parallel lines. You can read this information here. I will be posting this on Schoology. Again, they are flat lines, and the midpoint is the equator at 0 degrees latitude. Okay? Longitude, again, are imaginary lines that run from north to south or south to north. They are vertical lines up and down. Okay, so think longitude, long lines. Longitude, long lines. Okay, and just like the equator is for latitude, the prime meridian is 0 degrees latitude. Okay, but the difference between latitude and longitude is that lines of longitude intersect at the poles. That means that they meet. Okay, so they're all coming together. Lines of latitude never meet. Never meet. Okay. Something that it's really hard to see when we're not physically in class, but the hemispheres. So the northern hemisphere is at the top, and the southern hemisphere is at the bottom. Okay? So it's cutting our world in half. And likewise, cutting our world in a different way, vertically. Okay? The western hemisphere is to the left, and the eastern hemisphere is to the right. Okay? So this is actually cutting it horizontally. This is cutting it vertically. Just like latitude cuts it horizontally and longitude cuts it vertically. Okay? Map scale. We've gone over this a bunch of times. Just to reiterate what we've talked about with map scale is simply really important when we're looking at different maps. And you know how we created one of our hallway at BH. Um, we were using feet. In that case, that's a really small map. But when we're looking at a larger map, such as a city blocks, we want to have it in miles, zero point 0.5 miles, to show a greater distance, right? So if we wanted to look at a whole state, we would go by 0 to 200 miles. See, that's a really large scale to show how far you would have to travel. So if I was in Asheville, North Carolina, and I wanted to estimate how far it would be to Greenville, I would use my map scale and I would measure it. Okay? Same thing goes for the eastern United States. If I wanted to know, I'm in Florida, and I wanted to know how far it is to Pennsylvania, I would take my map scale and I would estimate the distance. In this case, it's in miles. Okay? So again, at its most basic point, map scale shows distance. Map scale shows distance. Okay? All right, political and physical maps. Okay? And again, we're going to go through the whole slide of the different maps again. But map makers, and you should know this vocabulary word, they are called cartographers. It's not just a map maker, that person's a cartographer. They make all different kinds of maps for different purposes, like we looked at. Okay? And we're going to go back to the other slide in just a second. And last but not least, map projections. So, as we were looking at, the best representation of our world is always going to be a globe. Why? Because our world, Earth, is a three-dimensional shape. It's physically there. But when we try to project our Earth onto a map, it becomes distorted. And over time and throughout history, People have made different maps and they think that, maybe their map might be the best. Well, we know from looking at various pictures and videos that no matter what, there's always going to be a little bit of distortion. Distortion means change, right? So when we look at, for example, the Winkle triple projection, some of these continents look pretty good. But then if we take a look at Antarctica, we notice that it looks even maybe perhaps larger than South America and North America put together, when in fact that is not the case. Okay, so it's stretching Antarctica at the bottom and making it really, really big. Okay? So distortion changes the way our Earth or a map looks when on a two-dimensional flat map. Okay? Distortion. All right? Let's quickly go to our slide about thematic maps. Okay? And again, you're going to be asked about these on the quiz. Okay? So the first type of map we looked at was political maps. Political maps show boundaries, they show countries, they show states, they show cities, and with different colors, so you can kind of tell which one is which. Okay? These are political maps. This one right here. Physical maps, on the other hand, show landforms, like our landform project. They show mountains, they show rivers, they show lakes, they show plateaus, plains, all these different types of physical landforms that we have on our Earth, including oceans, right? It should never exclude bodies of water. That's included as well. So physical maps show things, landforms that we can interact with on our Earth. Climate zone maps show different areas of weather in certain, could be countries. For example, this is the United States, and it's showing different zones that have certain weather patterns throughout the year, right? For example, Pennsylvania is a warm summer. But if we go a little more north, it's going to be a cool summer. But if we go more south, it's going to be a little bit more tropical. Okay, so that shows climate zones show weather, or what it is like in certain seasons. Vegetation. Well, simply put, vegetation maps show veggies or plant life. What types of vegetation exist in certain areas, right? So this lush green color, we know from looking at this, is the Amazon rainforest, tropical rainforest, okay? But if we were to go somewhere else that might have a little bit of a drier climate, we would see, okay, that's a little bit of a desert, or Patagonia steppe, which is also dry. Coming to the end, we know that population maps show how many people are in a certain area. Okay? It's showing the density, how many people are in a certain area. In this particular case, it is a country. It's not always countries. It could be a state. It could be a continent. It could be anything. Okay? And last but not least, economic activity. We didn't really discuss too much of this, but again, economic activity shows what resources are available in a country and or continent. In this case, we are looking at the resources of Europe. Okay? So that's pretty much what we have for thematic maps, because they all show a different theme or topic. And again, with our landforms project, you know that there's various landforms on our Earth, such as mountains, valleys, canyons, plains, plateaus, islands, lakes, oceans, coasts, deserts, rivers, glaciers, arcs, and that's all we have for our simple landform slideshow. Okay? Make sure you study, watch this when you want, and be prepared.